Greetings, listeners.
Hello, how y'all doing today?
Topher here with you.
I'm Billy.
Ooh, what a shock.
And we are the Bears on Film.
I'm done.
You tired, mate? Is that all the notes you've got written down?
I exercised this morning. I'm knackered.
Yeah, I just did some star jumps. Just warm up for recording.
Get the blood flowing. Oh, this is good stuff. Today we're talking about Lady Bird.
Yes, we are.
Best reviewed film in history.
No, I think that record...
It did. Some douche had to come along and give it a rotten...
2 bad reviews.
Oh, it's up to 2 now.
Yeah.
Why are we
talking about
this
it?
Film?
Piece of shit.
Clearly it's trash. What did it get up to?
Got up to 208 reviews before it got a -1.
Yikes.
Which the previous record was Toy Story 2. Again, as we've said, Rotten Tomatoes isn't really anything to go by.
Kind of stupid.
But that being said, it gives you some kind of metric that this film should be good.
One would think.
Yes.
Going into it, your expectations are pretty much set at quality. That's fair to say.
Yeah, definitely above average at least. You know that 100% of these reviews minus 2 were at least 6 stars and above. So,
well, if they're by 5 stars, that would be
that's
insane. That's impossible.
But so you expect it to be good?
Yes, you do. Can I ask you straight off whether you think it's good?
You want me to reveal that right up?
I do.
Fucking loved it.
Yeah, it's really good.
Loved every second.
It's really
of
good.
this movie. I mean, this movie's made for us. Like it, I love
17-year-old.
Well, all right. Hit us up with the plot.
So I've heard some people have said it's this autobiographical account of Greta Gerwig's growing up. It's not really.
It's not. I believe it's semi. I mean,
it's semi-autobiographical.
She grew up in Sacramento, and her mum is a nurse.
Yeah, but she has said that no, she's really not like Lady Bird.
From what I've heard, it's more autobiographical in the sense of the feelings and emotions that you feel at that time, not in the sense of these things happened to me.
So the character of Lady Bird, whose real name is Catherine, but she goes by... Sorry, I knew it was a C. I was in the,
You're fucked up already.
Mate, I was in the right suburb. Give me that. She's played...
Christine McDonald.
That's her.
McPherson, you idiot. You can't get any of this right.
I didn't say the last name, did I?
You work out like one morning and all of a sudden your brain is addled to mush.
It's all gone. But look at my guns. Be like Johnny Drama. Yeah. Except I have calf muscles. Anyway... Lady Bird, played rather magnificently by Saoirse Ronan.
Saoirse Ronan is outstanding in this film.
And would you say it's the main focus of the film is the mother-daughter relationship?
Not at all. I was actually going to bring that up. I've seen people say that this is a movie about a mother-daughter relationship, but this is just a coming-of-age movie. Mm. And when you're coming of age, your parents and your relationship with your parents is a large part of that. But I don't think that this is a movie about a mother-daughter relationship. I think this is a movie about a 17-year-old girl.
And certainly the second most important person in the story is her mum.
Yeah, of course, as it is for most 17-year-old girls. The second most important in their life is their mum and then their friends.
But yeah, her best friend is very important in the story. Her dad's very important in the story.
Yeah, of course.
But yeah, I think it's fair to say that the most important relationship in the film is the mother-daughter relationship.
I'd agree with that, yeah.
But it had certainly been, I don't know if sold to me is the right way to put it, really.
Yeah,
my expectation was that this really was going to be a mother-daughter film.
100%. That's what I was expecting walking in. I thought this was a movie about a mother-daughter relationship, but I was pleasantly surprised.
But it's also a bunch of other things.
It's much more than that, yep.
The mother, of course, played by the much-lauded Laurie Metcalfe. God, she's good.
She's wonderful. Well, I mean, straight up, again, as we said last week with Black Panther, I don't think there's a bad performance in this film, really.
No.
Yeah.
No, there's not.
No.
The staff at the school, they're so good, aren't they? The teachers,
everybody, yeah.
One of the guy who's the maths teacher,
yeah,
who I heard Greta Gerwig say that the way that that guy, I can't remember the actor's name, but he was asking her, like, where am I coming at this character from? Who is he? And she was like, he's the only teacher at school that's funny. Only he's not. It's just that he's the only teacher under 40, so they think he's cool, but he's not quite smart enough to know that. Which is, it's absolutely bang on.
Yeah, yeah. That's what I loved about this movie. It's not, like that whole plot could have so easily been turned into, this this teacher happens to be a creep or something like that. But it wasn't. It just captured, how many teachers when you were at school did you have a stupid little crush on? And it's literally just that. It so perfectly captures life as a teenager.
Yeah. One thing I'd heard this about this film months ago where someone said, and this was a male reviewer, I think in his 40s.
Yeah.
And he was like, the truly like borderline magical thing about this film is that even if you're a male in their 40s, you are Lady Bird.
Yes. That's the great thing about this film, and it's very clever. So, set in 2002, that's when we were in high school.
I was. You were still in high school. I was already leaning on the Zimmer frame.
But so I was in high school at this time. So the whole movie, as well as it's a nostalgia kick. So it's almost like it's made for people like us who are now at that age of becoming parents. So we're almost looking back on this film, not as the Laurie Metcalfe character, but I heard Greta Gerwig say that part of her intention was to film the entire movie so that it felt like a memory. Yep. And she fucking nailed that. Yep. That's how this movie feels.
I remember, speaking of, so Greta Gerwig, if you don't know, writer and director.
Debut director, yeah.
Yeah, she had co-directed something previous to this,
yeah,
I believe. But certainly her first solo outing. And I think you could be forgiven for thinking, judging from the trailers anyway, that this is really reliant on the script. And that the direction will be not necessarily that inventive and it just kind of presents the story. And that's kind of true, but it's also absolutely perfect.
Yeah, I thought the direction in this movie was great. It could have been, yes, it is simplistic, but it could have been, that doesn't mean that it's without style.
Exactly.
You can be simplistic and still have a very clear vision, and this movie does that. I thought that the pacing of both the screenplay and the direction and editing was outstanding. Everything is very fast moving, which is what life as a teenager is like. It's very fast paced. You jump from one thing to the next. But at the same time, it gives you those moments to linger on things. And I just thought it couldn't have been done any better.
Yeah. So there's nothing in directing this film. It's not like there's no reason to get in the techno crane or anything like this.
No, that's the thing.
The way that this story is presented, I think, is just absolutely the way it should have been done.
Yeah, because
Gerwig
that's what the story is. Yeah.
Out of the park.
Yes.
I saw her talking. There was this panel discussion of I think it was the nominees for the Directors Guild Awards, if I'm not mistaken.
Right.
Pretty long talk. It was the better part of 3 hours. We're talking to the 5 directors that were up. And up on stage there, you've got 2 first-timers in Peele and Gerwig.
Yeah, who both knocked it out of the park this year.
And if you've got a spare 3 hours, as I clearly regularly do, I'd totally recommend checking this out if you can track it down, because one, it's just really interesting listening to all these people talk, but with Peele and Gerwig, if you had any kind of notion that there was any kind of beginner's luck here, or just leaning on the fact that they had a really strong script, that gets completely washed away. The amount that Gerwig is so on top of her game is just so bloody apparent.
And you know what I think part of that comes down to too is that the story for these two is so personal. They wrote it themselves as well. They have such a clear vision. It's not like they're adapting somebody else's work or they're taking somebody else's screenplay. In both cases, it's almost like a passion project. No wonder the direction is outstanding. And I can't wait to see what these two do next and whether they nail it again, because I think that's the real question. I think when you write something like this yourself and you've got such a clear vision, you would hope that you would knock it out of the park, which both of them outstandingly did. And I can't wait to see what comes out of them next.
Something that's that I love about this is that it's this warts and all approach to character in the film. We like Lady Bird.
Yeah, but she's not a perfect person. She's a teenage girl.
Exactly.
And her mum, played by Laurie Metcalfe, is not
perfect.
But she's also not a monster. Yeah. She's a regular mum.
She's mum.
I grew up with 2 sisters, and I'm not saying that their relationship with my mum was identical to this, but there are elements of it, these are issues that I think every teenage girl has with their mothers at some point, and we're seeing it from Lady Bird's perspective. So I wouldn't be surprised if there was a little element of unreliable narrator going on here, and we're seeing her maybe a little bit harsher than she actually is, because like I said, the whole film feels like a memory, so you remember things differently than they happened. So
But right from, of course, the opening shot of the film is Lady Bird and her mum lying down, facing each other. Right from the beginning, you have this idea of them being this kind of reflection, and of each other.
Yeah, and there is a huge sense of love between them the entire movie. Even when they're fighting like they do, you never for 1 second feel that these two characters don't love each other. And that comes up even, when Lady Bird's first boyfriend keeps talking about how her mum is kind of cold.
Yep.
And even when Lady Bird is fighting with her mother, she is constantly defending her because she loves her. She's her mum. Yep. It was just perfect.
Yep. And Lady Bird herself, we really like her. But then there's also those moments where, like when the play is cast, and she's totally shit to her friend.
Oh yeah,
not really intentionally.
And her friend is great, might I add. I love
so
Julie.
good,
that actress is fantastic.
She's great,
and that character adds so much to this film.
And that's a really nice little bit of storytelling, kind of when they're looking at the rundown of the cast.
Yeah,
and it's not done. It's not a big deal, but just the way that Lady Bird is completely self-centered about it. Yes. And then we just have that little linger on the friend, which tells us a bunch about this dynamic and stuff. And it's done in all of 5 seconds.
Yeah. And that's one of the things I love about this film is that every character has a place. Even little side characters. I really like the little times that we see her friend's mum's boyfriend. Just when they first turn up to school and he's packed a lunch for both of them. It's that kind of little things that just gives you more feeling into this world that has been created. Speaking of the whole warts and all thing too, can I give massive props? I don't know if this is to do with having a female director, but I love the fact that they let Saoirse Ronan look like a person. She's got acne on her face. She looks like a teenage girl. And even when you see teenagers in film, like when you're watching Glee or something, for example, and they all have immaculate skin, and I love that they just let her do this.
Yeah.
And I don't know if that's to do with having a female director, but we need more of that.
The dad as well is someone who you just so quickly, you've just got such a good grasp of who this guy is.
Yes.
And I think that's the case for like everyone in the film, really. So quickly, you're just like, yep, I know who that is.
Yeah.
I've met that person. Yep. Or like either that is my mum or I know that mum.
Yeah.
Or that is my dad or I know that dad. And the dad, like I know that dad.
Yeah. Who doesn't?
I know that guy who like just, the house can be erupting around him or whatever. And he's just sitting in the chair.
Playing solitaire.
Exactly. I know that guy.
Yeah. I love that every moment in this movie is both sad and hilarious. It is side-splittingly funny and heartbreaking all at the same time. The moment with, the priest crying in her class when, he's like, let's play a game to get our emotions out. The first one to cry wins, and we're playing two.
And like, it's funny.
It's funny, but at the same time, it's like, oh, shit. Or like her 18th birthday when she goes to the shops to buy cigarettes
and porn.
And it is so funny. And it is just as sad as that moment actually would be in real life when she's standing outside looking at these dicks and smoke. And you could just tell that she's like, well, this isn't as good as I thought it would be.
I remember, actually, in the theater, I remembered when that scene's happening. I was like, I remember being out with a mate of mine and we were just out waiting for it to go midnight so that he could go in and buy a round. Yeah. And he went in and he didn't get ID'd. Yeah. Had to be like, I think you're forgetting something. It's 12:01.
Like that's exactly what these moments, and like losing her virginity too, where it's so funny the way that he just goes so quickly like that, and you're almost laughing. And then you get saddened by it because you know how much this meant to her and how little it means to him. Like, Greta Gerwig just captures everything in this film so well.
And the way, again, on that scene, it's losing her virginity in it. Like, sure, it's a big moment in the movie, but it's also kind of a non-event.
Yes, it is. That's what I mean. It takes like 30 seconds. There's nothing to it at all. It's not romantic, but it's not unromantic. It's just a moment.
It's just this thing that happened.
Yeah,
at her age.
And so let's talk Timothée Chalomet.
I think we just say Timothy.
Well, what's with the accent, mate?
I don't know. I didn't put it there.
Timothée Chalomet.
Okie dokie. You go with that.
So Timothée Chalamet, I thought was very good in this film.
He was good.
He perfected the douche. I haven't seen Call Me By Your Name, which I know that you think is very, very good.
He's stunning.
And I haven't seen Call Me By Your Name yet, but I thought that Timothée Chalamet was fantastic in this. He plays the perfect douche.
Yeah. And
I wanted to punch him in the face.
Again, you know that guy.
I know that guy. I'm sure that for a brief
were that
period in
guy.
high school, I was that guy. I think all of us were a douche at some point in our lives.
Some of us have clung to it.
But he plays it so perfectly when he's talking about cell phones.
Exactly.
How the CIA didn't need to put trackers in our pockets because we went out and bought them ourselves.
Yep.
And she doesn't even get, she's like, I don't have a tracker. And he's like, cell phones. I'm talking about cell phones. Like, it was just hilarious. He was great.
And yeah, props to him for being willing to play the guy.
A dickhead.
Yeah, exactly.
He doesn't try make him sympathetic at all. Again, all of these characters are just played like people. It's so funny to me how this movie, I'd almost put it with the Florida Project in terms of capturing reality. And yet they're completely different styles. This is a fully scripted, fully directed approach. And yet the way that Greta Gerwig has written these characters and the way that these actors have read the lines is so grounded that they're just people. Like,
my favorite bit of direction in the entire film, I think, is when she's moved on from Danny onto Kyle.
Yeah.
And we just get the shot of the names on her bedroom wall.
Yeah.
And it's like so much of the direction in the film, it's totally simplistic. It's just this straight on shot of it. And it's also completely perfect.
I love that this movie, it's not about them being a poor family or anything, because I don't even get the sense that I think they're probably kind of middle class, and it's just because she's at this school with all these rich kids, it feels so much worse. But they've just captured what it's like to kind of struggle a little.
Yeah. And then I like the fact that there is like financial struggle is a part of the home life of Lady Bird's family. But then at the end of the film where she goes to her friend's house and like she lives in as she would think of it as being a not particularly nice house.
Yeah.
Then finally we see her friend's house.
Yeah. And it's like in a hotel type thing.
Yeah. Just this tiny little pretty ordinary looking apartment. It's like, well, could be worse, Lady Bird.
Yeah. I thought that was great. When they even bring that up, I love when after she loses her virginity and Kyle's kind of lecturing her about, all this other stuff. And she's like, not everything has to be war, like not everything has to be that level bad. This is still bad. And I thought that was a really nice sentiment that your struggles are your own struggles and you don't need to compare them to other people. Like, I think that was a really important thing to learn as a teenager.
So I think Gerwig wrote this in 2013, I think.
Yeah, right.
Apparently when she first wrote the script, it was 350 pages long.
You're kidding.
So it would have been like a 6.5 hour movie.
This has had a huge cut because it's barely ticking an hour and a half.
Yeah.
Which, I don't know if you know this, but general rule of thumb is 1 page equals 1 minute.
A minute, yeah.
Now, with films like this where it's very dialogue heavy, that might be a little bit off. You're probably looking a little bit more than that. But yeah, wow.
Yeah, so it must have just been a massive chunk of memory and everything going into the original script until it's like, well, this isn't going to work. But yeah, written. So it took a while to get, and hardly surprising with indie films that it can take a while to get these things to happen, to finance them and everything. I think,
and again, we've said it a million times on this show, but props to A24.
A24
and places like that for just making stuff like this.
Yep. I think Gerwig and Ronan met kind of 2-3 years back at, I think it was at an awards ceremony. Yeah, right. They met and got talking about it. And I think they actually wound up going to Saoirse Ronan's hotel and doing a bit of a read.
Oh, really?
And Gerwig was like, well, there's my lead.
Yeah, right. How did you find Saoirse Ronan's accent in this film?
I found it absolutely bang on, but I'm not American, so I don't know.
I just fully believed that she was American. Again, I'm an Aussie. I don't know. But, we're pretty attuned to the American accent because that's where most of our entertainment comes from. And I thought she did a great job.
Yeah, I stand to be corrected, but
yeah. I even noticed a few times where obviously she's playing someone from Sacramento. I even found a few words where you could pick it up as a Californian accent, as opposed to just a generic American accent. There were just a few words
because
that she said.
A lot of the time, I think, particularly British people, kind of land on this mid-Atlantic accent.
Yes.
So it winds up being a kind of posh American accent.
Yeah.
But yeah, I did hear Saoirse Ronan say recently that she feels like she's just gotten to the point with doing American accents where she can actually do a bit more placing of it. I did think a little while after seeing Lady Bird, Edge of 17 came into my mind.
I've heard a lot of comparisons between this movie and
the
movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
I still haven't seen Edge of 17.
And I was totally into Edge of 17. I thought it was really good. But in Edge of 17, the difference for me is that in Age of 17, you're watching a story unfold. It's not like Lady Bird where you feel like it's your experience.
Yeah, I mean, again, this, like we were saying with Flora Project, this almost, in a sense, has no plot, but at the same time it does. It's not like, I mean, if you just look at the Wikipedia plot for this film, it basically just says a 17-year-old growing up in Sacramento in 2002. Like,
because that's
all it is, really.
The predictable thing would be prom is what we're getting to.
Yeah, but
whereas that comes up in the film kind of out of nowhere and then is done with it. It's actually not a big event.
Yeah, and of course, because this is an American school year too, because you guys are all messed up, but you have your school year going through the middle of like 2 years, and then you end it with, you know, her going to college.
So the college in the film isn't named, but I think you see some colours or something which informs you that it is actually the college that Greta Gerwig did go to.
Right, because she applies for several. And yeah, you see the named ones on the rejection letters, but you don't see the name on
apparently it's the colours on the acceptance letter or the letter that says she's on the waiting list is a nod to Gerwig's alma mater.
Yeah. So what were your thoughts on the ending of this film?
I think the film ends really well. It could, if it had wanted to, it could have ended 5 minutes earlier, but I'm completely comfortable with how it did.
So you feel it could have ended at the airport? That's one critique I've seen of the film, is that it could have ended there.
It could have, and that would have been a good ending, but I have no beef with the ending.
Yeah.
Yeah, I can completely understand the need, either the need or the desire to have that closure of that final phone call.
Yeah.
I think that is actually reasonably important. I think as an ending, maybe the airport would have been a cooler ending.
Yeah.
But character-wise, the ending we get probably, I think, is actually better.
Yeah. And even speaking about that phone call, I don't think that that's full closure. She doesn't see her mum. She doesn't even talk to her mum. It's a voicemail. It's more closure for the character of Lady Bird, that she is growing up. Like I said, this is a coming-of-age story. She calls her mum and she says, hey, it's Christine, which is the first time in the film she's used her own name, apart from when she's kind of trying to sound like a normal person to impress someone.
Yep.
So, you know, and she says, that's the name you guys gave me and it's a good one. And that's just kind of, it's her growing up and realizing my parents are people, which is something that everybody learns at one point in their life, is that your parents aren't just parents. They're people too. They had dreams at one point and...
Not mine.
Your parents are the single best humans on the planet. And I know they listen, so hi, Tess.
Good job. Yeah. I'm clearly great, so well done you.
Okay, so I guess we're kind of at the end here. Yep. What are your final thoughts? What are you rating this? Are you part of the 99%?
I certainly am part of the 99%.
Shock. My mouth is agape.
If either of us hadn't liked this, the other one might have just left the show and been like, what is wrong with you?
I just don't think there's anything not to like about it. I don't understand how a person could not like this movie. And I know that sounds like a dick thing to say because film is subjective and everybody's different, but I find this film is pretty firmly for everyone. Like we were saying about Shape of Water, I feel like it's artsy yet approachable. Like I feel like it pretty evenly ticks all the boxes and does everything I wanted to do.
Yeah, I was probably, my decision of what to give it out of 10 was between an 8 or a 9.
Yeah.
I fell onto an 8 in deciding it was a film that I think is really, really, really good without quite tipping over into greatness.
All right. Historically, I'm always more in love with films than you. What's your guess?
It's going to be 9 or 10.
Yeah, I'm a 9.
Yep.
I loved this movie. I just thought it was near perfect. I think it's great. I'm still not sure if it's my favorite coming of age movie because I still think that maybe Juno holds that for me. What about you? Where do you go with coming of age movies?
Yeah, well, now I'm on the spot. I hadn't thought of it at all. Juno is a good call. I might have it about on par with Juno.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I think it's a great movie.
Yeah.
I think there's very little to fault it on, really.
And now, like you said, there's a lot of us who are going to be really excited to see what Gerwig does next.
Yeah, I just can't wait to see what happens next and how soon we get it as well. Because as I said, this is a very personal story. Like you said, she was working on it since 2013. So here we are 5 years later. I think that's when she finished the script,
so God knows, she may have started writing it. Who knows when?
Oh, probably at least a year before. So yeah, so who knows what's coming next. But I personally can't wait to see it. So this now is your final film of all of the best picture nominees that you had to see. So you've now seen all 9.
I've completed the set.
All right. Obviously, we'll go into this on our Oscars episode, but just as a quick question, where does this sit in the 9 for you?
It's in the conversation for the top.
Oh, for the very top.
Yep.
Interesting. Well, I can't wait to have that conversation with you next week. Yeah, so next Monday, we're going to hit up with Golden Voyage of Sinbad, and then on Thursday, that's right, you're getting 2 weeks of double episodes from the Bears, so get excited for that.
Getting your money's worth, people.
So next Thursday, a week today, you'll be hearing our Oscar predictions, which is just before, I believe the ceremony happens that Sunday.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right.
So Monday for us, so probably take the day off work.
Come from us.
Yeah. Thanks for joining us. If you want to get in touch with us, you can do that at bearsonfilmmailbag@gmail.com, or you can find us at Bears on Film Podcast at Facebook and Instagram, or Bears on Film Pod at Twitter. And we're on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, anything you want. So please tell a friend about the show and have a good one.
Bye.
Catch it. Yeah. Let's have a contest right here, right now. I want you to choose a sentence and say it in your best American accent.
Yeehaw. Do I win?
Yeah!
We all know all Americans are cowboys.
Yeah.
Fact. Except for the ones from Boston.
He parked his car in Harvard. Oh, fuck, that's terrible. Cut that.